Now, a special 2-part edition of 48 Hours.
You can get married and divorced in Reno probably in the same week and lose everything you have in a matter of minutes.
Darren?
Yes?
Wait.
The Charla and Darren Mack story is a story of explosive love.
Smile, honey.
It's really good-looking people, a lot of money.
Woo, look at these.
A lot of sex, and high emotion. And eventually, murder. I'm Amanda Robb, and I'm a writer, and I grew up in Reno, Nevada. Darren Mack is handsome, larger than life, very charismatic, was an extraordinarily wealthy man. He worked in and around gaming, and that he owned a pawn shop.
And that's why we've been here for 40 years, and if you don't believe us, just ask anybody who's done business with us.
Everyone loved Darren. He had that personality that you wanted to be around.
Darren Mack was married to a 39-year-old woman named Charla. She was a stop-and-stare, beautiful brunette. Absolutely gorgeous woman.
She was the most positive, upbeat, friendly, happy human being you would ever meet.
I would say that Darren and Charla Mack were a pretty explosive cocktail.
Passion and volatile and not a whole lot in between.
She admitted that she did some things that she wasn't proud of in an effort to save her marriage.
They got increasingly into adventurous sex during their marriage.
It was a roller coaster. When it went wrong, it went really wrong.
So when his wife left him, it was a terrible blow. In a state known for divorce, this was about as nasty as a divorce can get anywhere. It was ugly, it was vicious, it was mean. Judge Weller was hearing their divorce case.
He felt Judge Weller wasn't listening to him. He was angry at the court system.
The shooter entered the parking garage shortly after 10:30 on June 12th. The vehicle was captured on the video surveillance system inside of the parking garage, which is how we know what time the vehicle arrived and left.
Darren is somebody who doesn't like to lose.
Losing is unacceptable.
She was going to take all his money and everything that he owned.
The shooter's vehicle drove up to the 5th floor.
We all have the means to murder somebody every day. 99.9% of us will never, ever do it.
We know that the judge was shot at about 11:05, and the vehicle flees the parking garage immediately.
SWAT teams locked down around 10 square blocks of downtown.
The judge was rushed to the hospital in critical condition as police...
After Judge Weller was shot, suspicion almost immediately fell on Darren because Darren had been so contentious with the judge.
It could have been anyone who shot Chuck Weller.
If Darren was capable of shooting a judge, what did that mean for his wife, Charla?
Smile, honey.
Caught in the Crossfire. Tonight's 48 Hours mystery.
We are now seeking Darren Mack, M-A-C-K.
I'll never forget that day and how it felt.
June 12th, 2006.
He has not been found yet. He has not been arrested yet.
Just the panic that hit me immediately when I heard that they were looking for Darren Mack.
The minute his face was on the news, I knew.
This story is unfolding almost by the minute.
The people of Reno were glued to their televisions following the brazen shooting of family court judge Chuck Weller.
My thoughts immediately turned towards Charla and her whereabouts. And I thought, we have to find her.
Ann Mudd and Christine Liebert desperately tried to reach their friend Charla Mack.
And immediately I got that little feeling in my stomach.
They were convinced Charla was in danger.
You're just pacing, because what are you gonna do?
Perhaps she could still be alive. Then they announced on the radio that they've also found a body.
That victim is now identified as Charla Mack, the estranged wife of Darren.
That was probably the scariest moment in my entire life, just to realize that my beautiful friend wasn't there anymore.
They had two really big personalities.
Darren and Charla Mack were married in 1995. And from the beginning, everyone says, they had a chemistry that was undeniable.
I think when you saw the two of them walk into a room, they were explosive together. Charla just fired him up, you know. She was more explosive than he was, you know. She was fire.
Writer Amanda Robb reported on the Mack case for Marie Claire magazine.
They were high profile in the community. They knew everybody. Everybody knew them.
Amanda and Charla went to the same high school in Reno.
She wanted to be famous more than anything. That's really was her dream, was to be famous.
Her body was found at the Fleur de Lis apartments.
I don't think this is how she imagined being famous, though.
Long before Charla ever met Darren Mack, she pursued her dream of an acting career. Leaving Reno behind, the teenager moved to Los Angeles.
Got herself 2 roles in 2 films. One was a film with Drew Barrymore.
That's Charla pushing the gurney.
And one was a documentary with Diane Keaton.
God has helped me through everything. God is wonderful.
Charla eventually gave up acting and moved back to Reno. When she began dating Darren, they seemed a perfect match.
Darren Mack is a handsome, charismatic millionaire. He takes very good care of himself.
Friends say they also shared an interest in a self-awareness training group called the Landmark Education.
He liked going to seminars about improving himself all the time, achieving his goals, which was money, 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 money.
Darren Mack is the oldest son of a wealthy and prominent Reno family. His parents owned one of the largest pawn shops in the city. When his father was killed in a plane crash in 1986, Darren became half owner of the family business, and according to court records, he was said to be worth almost $10 million.
They lived large. She drove a Lexus, he drove a Hummer. They had fancy things, fancy jewelry. Oh, it was fabulous.
But Darren Mack had been down the aisle before.
I knew his first wife, Debbie.
And what was she like?
Oh, she was a lovely girl. She was very quiet, very sophisticated.
Darren and Debbie had 2 children together, but the marriage did not end well.
He would not stop fighting with Debbie. She spent more than $250,000 in legal fees, you know, just responding to him.
Smile, Charla.
And Charla was on his side at the time.
Darren had joint custody, and for a while at least, he, Charla, and his kids seemed to be one big happy family.
Darren liked to seem to be a devoted father, a devoted husband. He liked having a beautiful wife, a beautiful home. He liked looking very all-American, squeaky clean.
But their clean-cut family image was a far cry from their private lives.
Charla was a very sexual person. She did not have sexual inhibitions, and that was something that she shared with her husband, and how great for her husband. They became sort of a fixture on the strip club circuit in around Reno.
Then it moved up into swinging.
Charlotte, smile.
Then they actually went to swinger conventions in California, Arizona, and Mexico, where there'd be group sex parties. They called it sexing.
I'm sorry, what does that mean, sexing?
Sexing is when you go to these swinging clubs.
But things changed after their daughter Erica was born in 1997.
Erica had a very normal life with her mother. Movies, play dates, sleepovers, parties. That was Charla's life.
Charla told Darren she was no longer interested in swinging.
She didn't like this lifestyle. She did it for a while because it was really important to Darren, but that she tired of it.
As the marriage began to crumble, letters and emails we obtained document an increasingly abusive relationship.
She was a petite, tiny woman, and he was a very big, buff guy.
Strong.
But it wasn't Charla who claimed to be the victim. It was Darren. Fifth-place winner in the Mr. Nevada bodybuilding contest.
He kept a diary in which he said that she kicked him in the testicles but missed, that she scratched his car, she yelled at him on the phone, she belittled him in front of his friends. Went on and on and on for 6 pages like this.
He claimed to be afraid of her.
Well, I think that's ridiculous. He's this guy that goes to the gym, works out, and is muscular, and it just seems ridiculous to me.
We're so much more stronger than women, they can't believe that we'll be physically abused. Darren was physically abused by his wife.
Darren's friend Michael Small says that despite his imposing stature, Darren Mack lived in fear.
He was very scared of her. I was with him a couple of times when she called and threatened him.
So he wanted to end the marriage because he was battered.
That's a big part of it. It's a known fact he carried a gun because he was worried she was going to come and kill him.
But Charla was apparently looking over her shoulder, too.
One time, he showed up at the house where she and Erica were, and they had some kind of confrontation, and he had her by the neck and was trying to strangle her. He was so angry with her.
In the end, it was Charla who filed for divorce. Darren moved out. The couple fought constantly over Erica, but fought even more over money, which Darren claimed was running out.
He was cutting her off. He canceled the credit cards. He wouldn't pay the utilities at their home. She had to keep warm by fire because they had no heat.
Family court judge Chuck Weller ordered Darren to pay Charla $10,000 a month until the divorce was settled, but Darren thought the ruling and the judge were unfair and wouldn't give an inch.
Anything that she got was something that he lost, and he just wasn't going to lose.
It was just after 11 on that bright sunny day in June 2006 in downtown Reno when bystanders heard a loud bang echo off the buildings.
Around 911, there's been a gunshot. The construction worker said he heard the shot go kind of over his head. I've just been advised that we have shots fired, possible sniper.
This is breaking news.
Reno police on the hunt right now for a sniper.
There is reports of at least one shot fired and maybe 4 or 5.
Northwest corner of the Justice Building, we have one window shot out.
We saw the glass, the window actually vibrating back and forth, looked like an earthquake.
The dispatch call came out of a sniper-style shooting at the courthouse shortly after 11:06.
Detective Ron Chalmers joined hundreds of police officers to shut down the city, while SWAT teams fanned out searching for the sniper.
The shooting came from the other side of the river. The judge is down in here.
Reno Gazette reporter Martha Belisle hurried to the scene.
There were people who were hiding in different businesses and restaurants. They were trying to get people off the street because they didn't know if the shooter was still going to be shooting. They didn't know where he was.
Heavily armed police quickly made their way through nearby buildings.
You're looking up, you're checking buildings. We could at least narrow down the area the shot came from because the bullet went through a glass window.
I'm in the room where the judge is actually shot. The trajectory looks like it could be that parking garage at First and Sierra. Possibly shot originally at the parking garage. Any units check the parking garage advised.
It turned out only one bullet was fired that morning, exploding through the window of Judge Chuck Weller's chambers, spraying him and his assistant with shrapnel.
Family Court Judge Chuck Weller shot while working in his chambers at about 11.
It was just minutes after the shooting when police got a break.
Darren's friend said that he was very concerned for Charla and felt that
a childhood friend of Darren Mack's met with police and had a disturbing story to tell. Dan Osborne told police he had been at Darren's home that morning when Charla dropped off their daughter. He and Erica stayed upstairs while Darren spoke to Charla privately.
Somehow, Darren lured Charla into his garage. The daughter upstairs heard a dog yelping and told Darren's friend, "I think your dog is yelping."
After the frantic barking went on for a while, Osborne told police he went to check on his dog. That's when he ran into Darren, who was coming up from the garage. Osborne said Darren brushed past him with his hand wrapped in a towel with a weird look on his face, not saying a word.
A few moments later, the dog came in covered in blood.
And he became incredibly frightened and said to the little girl, "We have to leave." They left.
Osborne put Erica in his car and started driving. Minutes later, his cell phone rang. It was Darren.
And Darren says, "Meet me at Starbucks." The friend, who's completely flipped out at this point, meets him at Starbucks with the little girl.
Mack took his daughter aside and spoke to her for a few minutes.
Darren Mack may have realized that was going to be the last time he'd see his daughter, at least as a free man.
He then drove off on his own.
If he thought that maybe Charla had been injured that morning, why would he allow Darren Mack to see the little girl?
Well, I think that Dan Osborne felt that he probably owed the Mack some gratitude. He was an employee for the Mack family. Whether it's poor judgment or not, or whether it's fear or not, he chose to allow Darren to see his daughter.
Based on Osborne's story, police rushed to Darren's condo.
As we looked around the property a little bit closer, we found 3 droplets of blood in the driveway near the garage door.
Behind that garage door was Charla Mack's lifeless body.
She was found in his garage, wearing no shoes or socks, with 7 stab wounds. When you're being stabbed or you're dying, you curl into fetal position to try to protect your core. This was a desperate woman who was curled up like a baby, trying not to die.
A search of Darren's condo turned up incriminating evidence. A note that on closer inspection, police believed to be a chilling step-by-step guide to the day's bloody events. The media dubbed it Darren's to-do list.
It refers to ending the problem, and then it also referred to certain weapons that he would need to fulfill those plans.
Police also found a rental contract for a silver Ford Explorer, and a crucial piece of the puzzle that tied everything together. The to-do list had the phrase parking garage if yes. Police reviewed surveillance video of the garage across from Weller's office, and sure enough, at 10:46 a.m., just 20 minutes before Weller was shot, a silver Ford Explorer is photographed entering the parking garage. We retraced the path police believe the Explorer took that day.
The shooter's vehicle pulled into the parking garage, drove up to the 5th floor. Moments later, the vehicle made a 3-point turn and backed in so that the rear of the vehicle was facing the Mills Lane Justice Center. I think he knew what he set out to do on June 12th, and he followed his plan piece by piece.
So this wasn't just an explosion of violence.
Well, I believe it was a calculated explosion of violence. We know that the judge was shot at about 11:05. The video surveillance camera shows the Ford Explorer's rear hatch being closed at 11:05, and the vehicle flees the parking garage immediately.
How far is the courthouse from this parking structure?
This is approximately 170 yards.
It would take some skill as a marksman to shoot that distance and to hit your target.
It would take some skill, but Darren Mack has an extensive history in hunting, and I believe for somebody with his firearms background, this would be a very reasonable shot.
The fallout from this horrifying day, one shooting.
Judge Weller is recovering from gunshot wounds under guard in an undisclosed location.
One murder.
Did she fear for her life?
Yes.
It's a homicide investigation right now. The prime suspect, Darren Mack.
And one disturbing question.
I absolutely was afraid.
Where is Darren Mack?
He's a scary human being.
Police say federal and local agencies are looking for Mack all over the western United States.
The judge is reportedly under guard in a local hospital. Police aren't giving out many details.
Day 2. 45-year-old Darren Mack is a hunted man. With a nationwide search underway, he is heading south and flying under the radar.
This is not a violent man. He is a good person.
His cousin Jeff Donner goes on television to make an impassioned plea.
If Darren is listening, if he's watching, we love him. We care about him.
Darren called Donner just minutes after Judge Weller was shot.
If he is responsible for this, he snapped, he broke. The press needs to ask what went on in that courtroom that would make a good, loving, caring person like this possibly snap to this extent.
That courtroom belonged to Judge Chuck Weller, and what went wrong in Darren Mack's mind was just about everything.
Tell me about Darren's frustration with the family court system, specifically with Judge Weller.
He felt Judge Weller wasn't listening to him. He also felt that Charla's attorney was lying about everything that he was filing, but Weller was letting him get away with it.
Michael Small was one of Darren's closest friends.
You're not uncomfortable saying out loud that Darren Mack is my friend?
No, I love Darren.
Even in light of these charges, these heinous crimes that he's charged with?
Innocent until proven guilty.
Small and Mack had a lot in common. Both men were in the midst of bitter custody fights.
We sat side by side, really trying to do right by kids and family.
And both men appeared before Judge Weller. Small says his own experience in Weller's courtroom sheds light on Darren's intense frustration.
I think I understand what he's going through inside of him better than anyone out there.
I want to talk right now about how this child is going to be delivered.
Weller ordered Small to return his son to Florida, where his ex-wife lives, an arrangement Small said would put the child at risk. But a Florida judge had already rejected that claim.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't confess to know the law. All I know, I will do anything to protect my children.
Judge Weller's hands were tied.
This court does not have jurisdiction in this case.
When Small missed the deadline to return the boy, a Florida judge threw him in jail for 45 days. The former actor was left to stew about family court in general and Weller in particular, a sentiment shared by Darren Mack. Both men were losing. Both men blamed Judge Weller, and both men started a campaign against him.
We felt something big did have to happen in order for people to know what is going on, in order for light to be shed on the situation.
Something big like what? Like a judge being shot?
No. We never talked about that. We never thought about that. We never wanted anyone to get hurt.
Clearly, Weller was not a popular judge. According to a tally kept by the County Bar Association, lawyers, when given the choice, chose to get Weller off their case.
Judge Weller had twice as many peremptory challenges as the other family court judges.
Martha Belisle specializes in legal affairs for her newspaper.
What kind of criticism have you heard about Judge Weller?
That he tended to make decisions quickly, wouldn't hear both sides.
But being unpopular and having a bias are two different things.
Did he have a reputation of making rulings that were more favorable to women in his court?
I don't know that that's been shown.
To the best of your knowledge, he didn't have any clear bias.
I don't know that he had a bias.
Just 2 weeks after the shooting, Judge Weller had recovered and held a press conference, but he wouldn't address the Mack case.
In every case, as much as we try to avoid it, oftentimes there are winners and losers. I can say that my job is to go into the courtroom and decide cases without bias, and that's what I have striven to do the entire time that I've been on the bench.
What did Darren Mack say to you about Judge Weller?
Well, he said he was an anti-father's rights judge.
Dean Tong was part of Darren Mack's divorce legal team. He says Darren was a difficult client.
He seemed like a guy who would have trouble listening to others. He wanted to basically call the shots.
Tong, who specializes in custody issues, warned Darren there are certain things that just won't sit well with any judge when it comes to deciding who gets custody.
Smile, y'all.
He wanted to still continue to do what he was doing, which was the sex swinging on the side.
Did you explain to him in very clear terms that he could jeopardize this case?
Absolutely.
And what did he say to you?
He took a deep breath and said, well, we'll address it. We'll talk about it.
Apparently, Darren didn't take the warning seriously.
Thank you for calling the world-famous Moonlight Bunny Ranch.
In fact, he later took a trip to the famous Moonlight Bunny Ranch to celebrate his impending divorce.
Oh, we all flocked to the parlor. We all want a shot at that one.
Hello, I'm Kitten. Hi, I'm Brooke Taylor. Hi, I'm Mia Morgan.
His friends brought him out here to play and have a good time. And he was like, you know what, I'm getting a divorce, I'm having fun, I don't have no reason to worry about it, to hell with her. You know, I don't need her, I got these girls here, and it was your average everyday divorce party.
But back at home, the party was over.
When it comes, to court, people are very naive in this country. They don't understand until it hits them on paper that a judge can alter your life in a New York minute.
Judge Weller had asked Darren and Charla to try to reach some kind of financial agreement on their own so he wouldn't be forced to do it for them. They did hammer out a deal, but when that fell apart, the judge stepped in and ordered Darren to pay up.
He had to pay her a lump sum of $480,000, out of which she was supposed to buy a home and a car. And then over the next 5 years, she was supposed to receive $10,000 a month in spousal support.
What was his state of mind?
Disillusionment, frightened, could not believe this was happening. I mean, he was about to lose a lot of his money.
Darren was ordered to make that payment of close to $500,000 to Charla, but soon after that hearing, Charla Mack was dead.
Do you think Judge Weller's rulings against Darren Mack pushed him over the edge?
I can't say Darren did this. Do I think Judge Weller's rulings, attitude, all that is enough to push someone over the edge? 100%. Yes, sir.
Is Darren Mack capable of murder?
We all are.
Should we all be huddling somewhere and hiding? Should our kids be walking in front of the windows?
It's been 4 days since Charla Mack's body was discovered inside Darren Mack's garage.
I was very frightened.
And there's still no sign of Darren.
If he murdered Charla with his daughter in the house, you don't know what he's capable of.
Darren's daughter Erica was now safely in hiding with family, but Charla's friends were still on edge.
Were you afraid that Darren Mack was going to come after you?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
That you were the next target?
Mark Phillips was Charla's boyfriend at the time of her death.
What did you do to protect yourself?
I always had the shades drawn in my house and walked through the backyard to see if any disturbances in windows or anything like that before I went inside. Always had everything double locked. I just don't understand why she went in there. She knew better than that.
While Charla's friends and family were lying low,
we've highlighted those areas of La Paz.
The search for Darren Mack was now an international manhunt. Reno investigators working with the FBI were tracking possible Darren Mack sightings in Mexico. A couple of unverified reports came in at this resort in San Jose del Cabo, Mexico. It would have been familiar territory for Darren since he'd been here the year before for a swingers convention.
People would walk around without any clothes on. They would have sex freely in the open.
Newspaper reporter Martha Belial went to Mexico trying to retrace Darren's steps and met hotel employee Virginia Delgadillo, who claimed she met a man fitting Darren's description.
He was looking at like, just standing here and just like, what is your name or something?
And an airline pilot staying at the same resort also reported he thought he had seen the millionaire fugitive. FBI agents soon descended on the Mexican hotel.
They conducted several interviews and canvasses. However, they were unable to ultimately determine if it was Darren Mack that was at that resort.
Then exactly 1 week after he disappeared came the shocking announcement that Darren Mack, hiding somewhere in Mexico, wanted to surrender.
A break tonight in the Darren Mack case.
Earlier this week, Mack contacted District Attorney Dick Gamick by telephone and expressed a desire to surrender.
Dick Gamick, a longtime Mack family friend, is Reno's district attorney.
He did express to me that he called me because I'm the only one he trusts in the system.
While he was still in hiding, Darren's family had retained 2 high-priced defense attorneys.
There's no question about the fact that we have our work cut out for us.
David Chesnoff and Scott Freeman took over the surrender negotiation.
Let's be clear on what we're dealing with here. Your client, Darren Mack, did kill his ex-wife, Charla.
You won't get me to tell you that.
Nor me.
That's not in dispute, is it?
I think everything in the case is in dispute.
But what's not in dispute is they see Darren as a man pushed to the limit.
I mean, if I had $1 for every time somebody said to me, this guy must have just snapped.
Do you think he went temporarily insane that morning?
He's a completely capable human being who makes bad choices and excuses.
But a series of emails Darren sent while on the run reveal a disturbing picture of this man. For example, in one message, he holds himself up as a martyr for the Father's Rights movement, saying, "Remember, they want me as a sacrificial lamb. They want the pleasure of executing me." In the same vein, he later writes that his story must get attention to save the hundreds of thousands yet to go through Little Nazi Germany in the divorce industry.
What does that say to you? What does that suggest to you?
And if that isn't a clear example to a lawyer or my colleague to have psychiatric analysis of our client, that's what that says to me.
After days of negotiations, Darren finally agreed to surrender the next morning at the U.S. consulate in Puerto Vallarta. But will he go peacefully?
Reno police officials have been working with the FBI inside of Mexico to facilitate the return of Mac to the United States.
June 22nd, 11 days after that violent rampage that shook the city of Reno. Police anxiously await the surrender of the man they believe responsible.
Mac, who is believed to also have been using the names of Darren Stone and John Smith.
There was a question whether Darren Mack would give up without a fight. But in the end, the millionaire fugitive quietly turned himself in at a luxury hotel in Puerto Vallarta.
He walked in around midnight and walked by the front desk, went to the phone bank, called his lawyer, walked back to the desk, and the officials came over and said, "I think we're the people you're looking for."
Darren's last night was spent in this stark Mexican jail cell. A dramatic reversal of fortune for a man who was accustomed to living the high life.
And Darren Mack has now stepped out of the vehicle. We can hear some of the press photographers.
What prompted Darren Mack to surrender?
The only thing that I can think is that he was obsessed with exposing what he believed were Judge Weller's injustices.
Darren Mack was carrying $36,000 in cash, 20 credit cards, and a suitcase full of evidence.
A pair of shoes with some blood spatter were in the suitcase. Some other clothing with what appeared to be blood stains were in the suitcase.
Did you analyze the blood stains on the clothing?
Yes.
And who do they belong to?
The DNA profile matches that of Charla Mack.
Darren Mack was charged with the murder of his wife and the attempted murder of Judge Weller.
This case had all the hallmarks of overwhelming evidence.
Las Vegas Special Prosecutor Christopher Lally is handling the case.
When you look at the DNA evidence, the eyewitness evidence, the fingerprint evidence, all the forensic things that people look for in a case, this one had.
Darren has pled not guilty to both crimes.
I believe that he's not guilty of these crimes.
You do admit, though, you have your work cut out for you.
People need to remember that Mr. Mack came back voluntarily so that he could present his defense.
From the sound of it, Darren Mack's attorneys may be making a case for self-defense.
Our investigation shows that this woman was violent and could get angry and do things that were inappropriate that may actually raise the question of self-defense.
Darren hinted at this in an email he sent to Reno DA Dick Gammett while negotiating his surrender, claiming it was Charla who was the aggressor in that garage.
She would never try to attack Darren or do anything like that. Even if she would, which I don't think she ever would, she would certainly have never even considered it with her daughter around, ever, period. It just wouldn't have happened.
Darren Mack's attorneys may also raise questions about his state of mind.
Is he mentally incompetent?
It's not for lawyers or prosecutors to decide, it's for experts.
Co-prosecutor Robert Daskus thinks insanity will be a hard sell.
You look at the object, if you will, of his hostility. He went after the two people he had a motive to kill. He went after Charla Mack, with whom he was having a bitter divorce and a custody battle, and he went after Judge Weller, someone, at least in Darren Mack's mind, who was treating him unfairly.
And the defense will need to work around that so-called to-do list, which could show premeditation.
What do you make of this?
I'd have to know who wrote it.
Cryptic list here.
I'd have to know who wrote it before.
You don't think Darren wrote this?
I didn't say that, but I don't know who wrote it, and it hasn't been established. And until I know who wrote it, how could I possibly speculate as to what the meaning of it was?
As they gear up for trial, Darren's attorneys say they'll spare no expense to defend their client, but apparently it won't be easy.
What is your client's net worth?
As we speak, it's zero. He has no money. Yeah.
How is that? I understand that he was worth anywhere from $9 to $12 million.
No, he's in bankruptcy.
So you're taking this case on pro bono?
No. He has a lot of friends and family that care about him a great deal.
After the violent events of that June morning, many still wrestle with the fallout. Custody litigation expert Dean Tong.
What has this case done to the father's rights movement in this country?
It certainly slapped me in the face. You know, how dare you be a martyr for this, for what we've worked so hard for.
Released from jail and back home with his new wife and family, Michael Small would learn more about the case and eventually withdraw his support from Darren. As Darren awaits trial for the murder of his wife Charla, their daughter Erica is now the center of a new custody dispute between her grandmothers.
Does she know about the circumstances surrounding her mother's death?
Yes.
Yes.
She knows that her father has been charged with her mother's murder.
Yes.
But she also hears a lot of comments from Darren's friends and family that try to instill doubt in her mind. And so now she has made the comment, well, we don't know if my daddy killed my mommy. She said maybe the cat did it.
So Darren Mack sits in jail waiting to tell his side of the story. The twists and turns of this case are just beginning.
This special two-part edition of 48 Hours will continue. This special two-part edition of 48 Hours continues.
Multi-millionaire Darren Mack is facing life in prison for the murder of his beautiful, sexy wife, Charla. There is a mountain of incriminating evidence against Darren. Is this the end of the story? Not by a long shot. When a sniper opened fire on the morning of June 12th at 11:05 in downtown Reno,
the judge was rushed to the hospital in critical condition.
no one could have imagined the horror that had taken place only a few miles away 2 hours earlier. In an upscale condominium complex, a woman had been brutally stabbed to death in a garage. Nobody knew what was going on, and nobody had put the two events together. Nobody disputes that Charla was there that morning in Darren's garage to drop off her daughter. Charla was so afraid of Darren, so most people think he must have made some sort of promise that he was going to end the fight over their divorce if she would just come in and talk to him. That is the only reason most people think she would have gone into that garage.
When I first heard that Charla had been killed, it was like somebody punched me in the chest. And you're thinking, it just happened, and maybe somehow if you can get to her and turn back time real fast, you can save her.
At one point, I think the Macks were a happily married couple. They did enjoy an alternative sort of lifestyle. They were swingers. They went to sex clubs and sex parties. They enjoyed swapping partners. They led a wild life, and by most accounts, they both enjoyed it. But there was absolutely no love in that garage that morning. There was bitter, bitter hate.
She obviously died a very slow, painful, and tortured death. It was absolutely premeditated, and we know that from the note that was left. Well, ending the problem was eliminating her, was killing her.
We've heard the official version about what happened that morning. Now we're going to hear Darren's story.
It's time to take a stand. We're not going to take this anymore. Where do we draw the line?
Darren's defense attorneys say that Charla was the aggressor. Charla attacked Darren.
He was very scared of her. I was with him a couple of times when she called and threatened him.
The Charla and Darren Mack story is far from over.
Just one day before Charla Mack was murdered, and Judge Chuck Weller was shot by a sniper, Alicia Biddison was out target practicing with her new boyfriend.
And so we all loaded up in the cars and drove out to a place where people routinely go shooting and did a little target practicing.
She noticed he was a pretty good shot.
How good of a marksman is he?
Excellent.
Excellent.
His name, Darren Mack. They met online, though not on a dating website, but on a blog filled with scathing complaints about family court judge Chuck Weller.
We both had unique experiences in the family court.
Alicia had her own run-ins with Judge Weller.
I received an email from Darren as well as many other people, and we began corresponding that way.
What was it about Darren that attracted you?
Probably first and foremost that he was respectful of me, because he valued my opinion, and then probably a close second to that was the fact that he's a family man. Especially being a single mom, you want to make sure that the person that you're dating is someone who has strong family values.
Did you fall in love with him?
I love him, and I do. Bring it home.
They knew each other just 3 months before the family man was accused of murdering his wife, Charla.
You're the person that was closest to him in the days leading up to the murder of Charla Mack. What was going through his mind? What was his mental state?
I can't begin to assess what Darren Mack's mental state was. I can tell you that my experience with him was that of a normal relationship. Yes, he was frustrated.
Alicia says that morning it never occurred to her that Darren could have been involved.
Anything about Darren conveyed that there was anything being planned.
A first responder told us a shot hit Judge Chuck Weller in the upper chest.
What came into my mind was, I've got to call Darren and tell him this. This is unbelievable. I mean, we knew lots of people didn't like Judge Weller, and rightly so. There was a lot of people out there who really didn't like this judge.
So you're at work and you hear that Judge Weller had been shot. And what was your reaction? What did you do?
Picked up the phone and called Darren.
And what did he say?
He just said he was really busy at the time and he'd call me back. And that was the last time I spoke with him.
When Garrett Idols spoke to Darren that morning, he had no clue that within hours, there would be a massive manhunt on for his friend.
The prime suspect, Darren Mack.
Did you notice anything in his voice, any kind of panic or?
When I didn't reach him, I immediately text messaged him saying, Judge Weller's been shot, call me.
Alicia never heard back from Darren that day, and by 4:30 that afternoon, she knew why.
For the shooting of Judge Chuck Weller, we are now seeking Darren Mack. This individual was a sniper.
It was a shock to you.
Absolutely.
And at that time, did you also fear for your own safety?
No.
Her only fear at that point was whether she too was under suspicion, since they'd been together just the day before at the shooting range.
So there was a decision made to call a friend of mine who is a sheriff, a local sheriff, and ask him, well, what do I do? Am I a suspect? Do I go home?
It was only then she heard the most shocking news of all.
It is a homicide investigation.
Charla Mack was found murdered on the floor of Darren's garage.
And I said, what? What are you talking about? And I said, I don't know, you know, I couldn't believe any of it. This can't be happening.
The next time Darren and Alicia saw each other was for a jailhouse visit several weeks after his return from Mexico.
It was a very emotional kind of reunion, I guess you would call it. Having, you know, seeing him again for the first time and realizing the full gravity of what had happened and how life was never going to be the same again.
Darren Mack plans to testify at his trial about what drove him to kill Charla.
I loved her as deeply as a man can love a woman. And when it wasn't that way, it was as painful as anything I've ever experienced.
Mr. Mack, I'll remind you that you're still on the road, okay?
He will tell a jury, as he told True TV,
I went to even the battered woman's thing to get a temporary restraining order.
that he lived in fear of his own wife.
I even at one point called my friend. I went and got his bulletproof vest and started wearing that anytime I was forced to meet with Charla alone.
And alone with Charla in that garage, it was she, Darren says, who attacked him. Since June of 2006, the murder of Charla Mack and the shooting of Judge Chuck Weller have been the talk of Reno.
And we have another major story to get to now. The Darren Mack murder trial finally got started today.
So when it came time for Darren Mack's trial more than a year later, the show went on the road to Las Vegas.
As this trial begins, we're going to hear two versions of a terrible story, a terrible murder.
Writer Amanda Robb followed the case for 48 hours.
We're going to hear Darren's story, and we're going to hear the prosecutor's story. They're both going to be brutal, and they're both going to be ugly.
There's nothing that unusual, unfortunately, about a domestic violence homicide.
Prosecutor Robert Daskus opened for the state.
Like a lot of couples, they grew apart, and 10 years after the marriage, Charla and the defendant decided to get a divorce. What made this case somewhat unusual was that Darren Mack also tried to kill a judge. Things became fairly contentious very early in the divorce proceedings before Judge Charles Weller.
A big part of the state's case would be these recordings from Judge Weller's courtroom showing the bitterness of the Mack's divorce.
Over and over, they lie, lie, lie.
This courtroom battle went on for over a year and a half, mostly about money.
Charla needs some money immediately. I don't have any money. What do you want me to do?
At one point, Judge Weller even threatened to throw Darren in jail when he violated a court order.
My inclination now is to require you, sir, to give her $10,000 by Friday at 5 o'clock, or if you don't do that, to report to 911 Park Boulevard at that time for incarceration.
Darren Mack is essentially, he's a spoiled brat. I mean, the kid was raised with a lot of money. He got everything he ever wanted, and now he found himself in family court. Things weren't going his way. He wasn't getting what he wanted, and he took matters into his own hands.
Prosecutors believe the idea to kill Charla may have been planted a couple of weeks earlier when Darren sat for this cable access interview with a father's rights advocate. Mack railed against Weller.
That is the the family court system, my experience of it under Judge Weller, is it's reminds me much more about what I've studied in school about Nazi Germany.
And then there was this chilling remark from host William Wagner to Darren.
You're actually, better off to murder your spouse and then plead insanity, and you'll be out in 7 years, and you'll have your kids.
What was Darren Mack's reaction when that comment was made?
He didn't say anything, but you could see his facial reaction. It was almost like he absorbed it and realized it might be a good idea.
Kind of almost as though a light went off.
At some point following this interview, prosecutors say, Darren took this advice a step further and actually wrote a to-do list for his crime spree.
It's not every day that you have a script basically laying out what's going to happen in a murder case.
Friends Ann and Christine say that morning began like so many others.
When she got in her car with Erica that morning and the dog, her intention was to drive Erica and do the exchange. And never in a million years did she leave her house that day and think, I should be worried about this.
Charla was murdered in a very brutal way. She clearly suffered defensive wounds on her arms and on her legs. She was clearly drugged from one area to another. We see blood spatter on the walls of the garage and on the floor of the garage.
Although we don't know exactly what happened, we know she put up quite a fight. Ultimately, she lost that fight. Charla Mack was 5'4", 120 pounds. Darren Mack was close to 6 feet, 200 pounds. Charla Mack didn't stand a chance.
Less than 2 hours later, Darren Mack could check one more thing off that to-do list. As Judge Chuck Weller lay bleeding on the floor of his chambers.
The next question was, who fired the bullet? Well, if there's a common denominator between Charla Mack and Judge Weller, it's the defendant, Darren Mack. Certainly that doesn't prove he fired the shot. Several other things will.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from the state.
Now, it was Darren's turn, as defense attorney Scott Freeman opened with scenes of a very troubled marriage.
He thought he'd hit the lottery with this woman. Funny, smart, beautiful, physically fit. Darren was not aware of the dark side of Charla prior to marriage. He also was not aware of her ability to be physically violent and physically abusive towards Darren.
The defense spared the jury no detail in describing the Mack's marriage.
Charla had an unusual sexual appetite. She liked women. She liked swing with men and women.
Charla, do some poses.
She could be kind and giving in public. She could be violent and abusive at home. It was too much for Darren to take.
Darren told friends he started carrying a knife and a gun for protection. Yet, in their last court appearance together, it was Charla who said she was afraid.
But he gets so angry and so whipped up that I just don't feel comfortable right now knowing personally where I live. And it's not about Erica, it's really about me. And I just would like to wait until the whole thing is resolved.
Charla did want protection.
Darren did want protection. They both asked for it, and they didn't get it.
And one person is still alive.
Yes, that I'm not denying that. And one person defended his own life.
And now, for the first time, defense attorneys revealed Darren's version of events. The morning Charla and Darren were face to face in that garage.
Charla arrived about 9:15. Charla begins to threaten, and the rubber band starts to pull. The name calling from Charla began. The terrorist split personality reared its evil head. She transferred into pure hatred. The rubber band is pulling.
According to Darren, the fight escalated, and when he turned his back on her, Charla knocked him to the ground. Darren says that's when the gun he was carrying fell out of his pocket.
She was going to punch him on the left side of his face, but Darren gets up and pushes her back.
Darren says as Charla stumbled backwards, she stepped on the gun. He claims she picked it up and aimed it right at him.
Charla, give me the gun, Darren says with his left hand. It's loaded. Charla looks at the gun, pulls the hammer back, smiles, and fires. Just like that, the rubber band breaks.
Darren claimed the gun had misfired. which may or may not explain why there was no evidence of gunplay. And this is the first time, by the way, that prosecutors heard anything about a gun in the garage.
Darren's worst fears were realized at that moment. Charla was really going to kill him.
According to Darren, Charla tried to pull the trigger again, but this time, he was ready for her with his knife.
They are both struggling on the ground. Darren plunges the knife into her neck once. Charla's violence has stopped.
Defense attorney David Chesnoff picks up Darren's story from that morning's crime spree.
He's like a soldier. He's a soldier for a just cause. That's how he sees this. Everything is happening basically on automatic pilot, which is consistent with somebody suffering from the delusions that Darren Mack was suffering from at the time that he went and shot Judge Weller.
The defense says Darren went into that delusional state of mind after Charla allegedly put the gun in his face.
Darren thought that Charla had slept with Judge Weller. Delusion, I hope. We'll ask Judge Weller when he comes here.
Chesnoff says they will prove Darren was still delusional when he managed to hit Judge Weller in a single shot from 170 yards away.
Did Judge Weller fuel Darren's delusions? You bet he did.
Darren's attorneys were trying a unique defense strategy. Self-defense in the murder of Charla Mack, and insanity for the attempted murder of Judge Chuck Weller.
Is Darren Mack insane?
No. No.
I think Judge Weller has a lot to do with what happened to Darren that day. I think Judge Weller should be up on the stand right next to Darren.
Despite the horrible details revealed at trial,
I mean, if it wasn't for Judge Weller, none of this would have happened.
Darren Mack still has supporters like Garrett Idle.
Help me understand that line of thinking. If it wasn't for Judge Weller, Charla Mack would be alive today?
If Judge Weller handled his courtroom with a little more human touch, a little more compassion, I think that a lot of people wouldn't be so destroyed.
Garrett met Darren through a divorce support group.
How were you treated by Judge Weller?
Like a piece of garbage. He told me if I couldn't pay my child support, doing my career line of work now, that I should go flip burgers. Go flip burgers? Excuse me?
Alicia Biddison claims Judge Weller crossed the line with her too when she was before him for that custody dispute.
How did Judge Weller conduct himself?
He was unprofessional, he was rude, and he made highly inappropriate comments.
Alicia was then a captain in the Army, and she says Weller accused her of being upset because her child's father moved on.
I took offense to the statement that I was chasing a lieutenant colonel and I was just bitter about not getting myself a lieutenant colonel. And I needed to get over that and I needed to get on with my life.
As his friends see it, Darren's own frustrations led him to that parking garage to send Judge Weller a message.
And I think he just wanted to injure him and to expose his courtroom, his corruption.
You believe that?
If Darren wanted to kill Judge Weller, he could have done so.
What do you make of Darren Mack's claim that he didn't intend on killing Judge Weller? Do you believe that?
No.
He just wanted to scare him.
No,
he wanted to send a message.
I think that's Darren Mack's ego because he didn't kill him.
State may call the next witness.
Thank you, Judge Charles Weller.
In a rare turn of events, Judge Chuck Weller found himself on the witness stand.
In the couple of months before I was shot, there were blogs on a couple of websites, and there were some just horrible attacks on me, calling me Hitler, saying that I was unfair, that I was biased, that I was corrupt. I knew some people from Nevadans for equal parenting. I had some sympathy for some of their views.
Concerned, Judge Weller approached the head of the group and asked him about the negative blogs.
Why is this happening? And he said, I thought Darryl, but perhaps he said Darren Mack. He told me that Darren Mack was behind it.
Weller remembered this conversation and gave police the details from his hospital bed.
And what was the name you told the detective?
Darryl Mack.
When you provided the name Darryl Mack, who were you thinking of?
That man right there.
Now, it's the defense's turn to cross-examine the judge, and they begin by questioning his knowledge of the divorce case.
You would agree that you've become a lot more familiar with this particular divorce than you actually did when the divorce was occurring. Isn't that fair, Judge Weller?
No.
Well, you didn't know Mr. Mack's first name, and he'd been in front of you for over a year.
Sir, because I didn't know his name doesn't mean that I was unfamiliar with the divorce. I was very familiar with the divorce. I'm diligent about my job, sir. I review the file before I go to court.
Well, I think the defense recognized what they had to do to push his buttons.
You treated Mr. Mack differently than you did other people who appeared before you, didn't you, Judge?
No.
And then the defense tried to show just how delusional Darren was.
With this question, I do apologize, but I have an obligation to Mr. Mack to ask it. You hadn't been sleeping with Charlotte Mack, had you?
No, sir.
Okay, that would be crazy, right?
Objection, Judge. There's no evidence to suggest there was any relationship between Judge Weller and Charlotte Mack. No.
I've never had my reputation attacked the way that you're attacking it, sir. It's unfair and it's unwarranted.
Well, hold on now.
Your Honor, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion, Your Honor.
I'm going to strike it. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll disregard that statement. Judge Weller, you know better than that. This isn't a forum for that.
I'm sorry,
Ask
sir.
another question.
This case shouldn't have turned into family court proceedings involving Judge Weller and other cases. This was about Judge Weller being shot as he stood defenseless in his chambers.
Did you think Chuck Weller was fair?
Yes.
To Darren Mack?
Without question.
And I don't think you just have to take our word for it. I mean, if you watch the videos yourself, particularly the last time those two are in court.
Mr. and Mrs. Mack, I'm sorry that I'm going to have to rule in this case. I've said over and over today, and I mean it, that this is a terrible thing. I can only pick one side or the other, and one of you has to lose.
But Garrett Idle says the tapes don't tell the whole story. And unless you've been through it, you cannot truly appreciate how it can drive someone to the edge.
Looking at the whole system from outside in, it almost makes sense. Almost.
How?
Well, why should one person have to just completely be bankrupt by a court decision and have to spend all their assets on their ex? It doesn't seem right.
So it makes more sense to kill your spouse?
No, I'm not saying that, but if you're looking
it almost makes sense.
It almost makes sense. I mean, looking from the outside in, it almost makes sense.
Garrett.
I'm not advocating murder. No, I'm not. But
you're telling me that almost makes sense to you.
If you look at the system, sure.
But even his #1 supporter concedes Darren's approach was probably not the best way to bring attention to their cause.
What do you think this case has done to your efforts for judicial reform?
Well, it did create a huge speed bump.
Alicia says that won't stop her fight to try and improve the family court system. And it definitely won't stop her from fighting for the man she loves.
Why are you still standing by his side? After learning everything that's been put out there during the course of that trial, you know about the details of how Charlotte Mack was slaughtered, and you're still there. You're still by his side.
Charlotte Mack was not slaughtered. And
I'm sorry.
Then there is a difference between a stab wound and...
It wasn't just a stab wound.
Well,
her throat
I've
was
seen the
cut,
medical examiner's
and I've seen the pictures as well. You're still there.
I am, because what I believe in is truth and justice for all.
None of that changes the fact that this man brutally killed the mother of his child.
He defended his life.
Smile, honey.
It's been 16 months since Darren Mack killed his wife, Charla.
All I can see in my mind is how my daughter was slaughtered like an animal, and she was the mother of his children.
16 long months that Darren says he spent anxiously waiting to tell his side of the story.
I did everything I could so that that day wouldn't happen.
Now the fun begins in our minds. Now we get to hear Darren Mack hit the stand and try to sell his story.
State of Nevada versus Darren Mack. Record reflect the presence of Mr. Mack.
His family and friends gathered for the first day of the defense's case.
We were going to get to hug Darren and encourage him because he was going to be testifying.
But over the weekend, there had been a change of plans. So instead of taking the stand,
As to count one, murder of the first degree, how do you plead?
Darren took a deal.
I'm accepting the guilty plea.
It was what? We were all just shocked.
Before I accept your plea, I need to be satisfied that it's freely and voluntarily made, is it?
Yes.
He would admit to murdering Charla, and in return, he would have a better shot at parole.
You willfully, feloniously, and without authority of law, stabbed Ed into the body of Charla Mack, causing her death. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was done with premeditation and deliberation. Correct?
Correct.
What we were being fed is, this is what's happening, this is why, and we're trying to save Darren's life, so we gotta take this.
We've given him hope, we've given him an opportunity for his family and his kids to feel that he's not gonna be locked away in a max prison forever.
I have before me the written plea agreement.
As part of the plea deal, Darren also admitted there was enough evidence to find him guilty of the attempted murder of Judge Weller.
Shooting at the judiciary is not the proper form of political redress.
But in the same breath,
And also, I want one other thing I'd like to tell you.
he also managed to take a parting shot at Judge Weller by praising Judge Herndon.
And I really appreciate Your Honor's integrity. I have much at stake. It's been a pleasure to have somebody who really takes their job seriously.
And in a private meeting, he also thanked the men who were trying to convict him, Robert Daskus and Christopher Lawley.
And Darren Mack shook our hands and thanked us for being professional, for acting like gentlemen.
What was that meeting like?
It was a little unusual. Doesn't happen every day.
A bit surreal.
But things were about to get even more surreal.
This is breaking news.
Just 3 weeks later,
A strange turn of events in the Darren Mack murder case.
Darren Mack announced he had fired his attorneys and wanted to withdraw his guilty plea.
Darren Mack had buyer's remorse. That's the bottom line.
Buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse.
Whenever you have somebody who basically signs up for spending just about the rest of their life in prison, it's not unusual for them to start having second thoughts about that.
Darren alleges his attorneys were just in it for the money.
It was money until they got the money, and then it was take the deal because you have no hope.
The high-profile attorneys were out, and local Reno attorney William Rustis was in. His first order of business was to try and get Darren a whole new trial.
I think it's been one of the greatest injustices that I have ever seen in the criminal justice system, and I've been doing it for 17 years.
Rustis claims his old attorneys, Chesnoff and Freeman, had coerced Darren into pleading guilty, and that Darren had agreed because he was confused, sleep-deprived, and dehydrated.
It's time set for a hearing on the motion to withdraw plea.
So 2 months later, Judge Herndon hauled everyone back into a Reno courtroom to hear arguments for a new trial. And this time, the star witnesses were Darren's former attorneys. They took the stand to defend themselves and the dual strategy of self-defense and insanity.
You could bring in any competent expert. Darren Mack is not insane.
It's an absolute joke what they did. You're not competent to argue self-defense if you're insane.
But David Chesnoff explains that it was Darren who insisted on the split defense.
Am I correct that Darren Mack is the one that said, I'm not going with an insanity defense on Charlotte? This was self-defense.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
And you did not think that was a smart thing to do?
No, because he came to the garage with a knife and a gun in his pocket.
By calling his former lawyers to the stand, Darren waived his right to attorney-client privilege. So what he had told them could now be used against him.
He had expressed to you all that he previously thought about having Charla killed?
Yes. And I also had discovery that he had solicited somebody to kill her.
There were actually police reports where Darren had solicited an individual in Clark County to kill Charla Mack and a family court judge.
Murder for hire?
Yes.
This was an incredibly difficult case to defend.
The damning revelations from Chesnoff kept on coming.
Darren had told us that after he stabbed her, he put his knee on her head and she was gurgling. When he told that to us in preparing for his testimony, I got physically ill.
Darren's case continued to unravel as his other former attorney reluctantly takes the stand.
This is a horribly disturbing situation I'm in right now. Because when I learn something from my client, I'm not telling anybody.
But under oath, Scott Freeman is forced to reveal that Darren never mentioned a gun in their initial conversation about what happened in the garage.
So the second conversation, he had indicated to me that he had meditated on what we had talked about and described to me in fairly significant detail what had occurred in the garage that included this gun.
Darren told Freeman that he had thrown the gun into a dumpster. But when Freeman went to look, there was no dumpster, and therefore, no gun.
I had two concerns. The first concern was that perhaps Mr. Mack was being less than candid with me, or alternatively, the dumpster had been moved. So I decided to go with the dumpster had been moved as opposed to him being less than candid with me.
Your Honor, the defense will call Darren Mack to the stand.
Darren Mack finally gets his chance on the witness stand.
You have this very first meeting with Mr. Freeman and Mr. Chesnoff, and you never mention a gun, correct?
That is correct.
You never mention a dumpster, correct?
That is correct.
Is there any evidence to support his claim that she pointed a gun at him?
No.
None at all. Nothing other than his word.
Darren insists he acted in self-defense and was coerced and confused when he took the murder rap.
That I've been that manipulated and gotten to a place where they got me to say what I said was so upsetting and horrifying. It was like a psychological rape. I mean, I have a whole new compassion for women who are raped. It's not just the sex that's taken from them, it's their will. And that is like one of the most horrifying things, to have your will taken from you.
Darren Mack is always the victim. In family court, he believes he's the victim. In the criminal proceeding, he thinks he was the victim. You know, Darren Mack is not always the victim. He doesn't get what he wants, and then he tries to get himself out of the situation he finds himself.
But you never told your lawyers you were sleep deprived, did you?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah. I didn't say it in those words, but I said I wasn't getting much sleep.
You never told your lawyers you were heat exhausted, did you?
I did not.
You never told your lawyers you were dehydrated?
I told them I was very thirsty.
After 3 days of testimony, closing arguments.
I think what is abundantly clear from the testimony of Mr. Chesnoff and Mr. Freeman is that they cared about this defendant. They zealously represented him from the very, very beginning.
And defense attorney William Rutsis makes a final plea to get Darren Mack another chance.
The truth will set you free, not the fear of the truth. And that's what happened here, Judge. They were afraid of their own case. They tried to tailor this man to an insanity defense, and he is not insane.
Darren is a spoiled brat. Darren is the most selfish person I think I have ever come across in my years of reporting.
Even from behind bars, Darren Mack is still trying to get his way. There was his guilty plea, his attempt to withdraw the guilty plea, and the firings of his own attorneys.
Is the circus over?
The circus is closing down.
Now, it's out of Darren's hands and up to the judge to decide if he gets a new trial.
The defendant wants a do-over. I don't think that's fair, I don't think that's just, and I don't think that's right. The motion to withdraw the plea is going to be denied.
It's over for Darren Mack. He now has to face the consequences for his crimes. One month later, at his sentencing, both families have a chance to speak.
Nobody here has any clue how it feels to know that your father is innocent, but have to look at through glass and talk to him on a phone.
Darren's son from his previous marriage begs the judge for leniency.
I love him with all my heart, and he loves me. And I cannot imagine going the rest of my life without my dad, my mentor, and my best buddy. And I love you, Dad.
Then Charla's family has their turn.
Charla Mack was my sister. I thank the court for the opportunity to offer a statement as a victim of the murder of Charla Marie Samsel. I use her birth name because she should no longer be associated with the name Mack. Let him never again breathe the air of a free man. Let him forever remain caged until the day he dies. May he die in prison.
I was one of those lucky mothers to be best friends with my daughter. When the phone rings, I realize it will never again be Charla. Now an indulgent, cowardly man has interrupted our path of growth. This man who thought he knew a better plan, who decided to play God.
Darren is also given one last opportunity to speak, and he does, for 3 hours, still insisting he acted in self-defense.
What happened is after she was trying to kill me, we both went to the ground. She then got stabbed. And you gotta understand the state of mind that she's just pulled the trigger on me once. We're in a fight for her life. She's trying to pull the trigger again. I just stabbed her, and it was an instinct. I came up, she still had the gun in her hand. I put my knee on her head. And that's the truth. I would have never choreographed the whole damn day.
And at one point, he even has the audacity to suggest that he is the one suffering.
But the thing a lot of people don't recognize is I lost a wife too. And even though that this happened, I still loved Charla. I just couldn't live with her, and I was afraid of her. I don't even know that there's no words.
Okay, Darren.
I just wish that that day had never occurred.
Throughout the course of the entire trial, Darren Mack never uttered the words so many had hoped to hear.
There was never I am sorry Charla Mack is dead. I'm sorry I shot the judge. And saying you're sorry is not a magic word. You don't automatically get a certain sentence by expressing sorrow to the court for what you've done. Which leads me to the conclusion, Mr. Mack, that you're not sorry.
Judge Herndon sentenced Darren Mack to life in prison.
And Mr. Mack, your sentence needs to speak to you for your actions and leave no room for error. To the people of this community and this state.
The judge then offers advice to the grandmothers who are left to raise the lone survivor of this terrible ordeal, Erica Mack, now 10 years old.
Hopefully you don't raise an angry and spiteful child who doesn't know who in her family to trust. She needs to be raised with hugs and kisses and not talking bad about each of those people. A child without her mother and now without her father for a great many years is going to need a whole lot from both sides of the aisle.
And before Darren is taken away, there is one more voice.
And there was a song that she wanted to sing to Darren.
Charla Mack's. This is a song she recorded after they split. It's played for the entire courtroom.
So you think you've got it figured out? Smile, honey.
What a woman desires most: the house, the car, the ring, the bank account.
It's Christmas morning.
Sense of security you ain't even close. Don't lie to me. Do right by me. Stand beside me when you're feeling weak. Think about your woman and think again.
Oh my gosh.
And be a man.
Darren Mack will be 83 years old before he is eligible for parole.